I used to do lots of things.
I used to do things and I'd say things and Jesus I was evil. Take things and break things and Jesus I was evil. I never shook baby.
So it's a sad time in Los Angeles because our weatherman passed away.
Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
David Lynch. Yeah, thank you.
I'm serious. It's been a tough few weeks.
Yeah, Oh yeah, the fires too, and then a new fire just popped up.
Yeah, I mean, your city was in a fireball.
Yeah.
But yes, also David Lynch, who I know held a special place in your heart.
Yeah, well, no, it was funny because when I found out the news from you when you texted me last Wednesday or Thursday, and it's funny because I was driving back to LA from my parents' place,
right?
And I got up like at 6 a.m, and so I just wasn't online. I woke up kind of early and packed, and then got on the road, so I just didn't check social media. So when you texted me, I was like, oh shit! I was like, an hour away from LA, so I was like, oh, and I almost crashed the car. No,
yeah, imagine if you just if I just killed you because I texted you that David Lynch died.
Oh man, but yeah. So that was definitely a bummer. He's been a big influence on me, and I've been on full Lynch mode. I've written a few articles for comicbook.com.
Oh, did you? Is that who you write for?
Yeah, comicbook.com. Yeah, that's what I write for.
Comicbook.com.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go leave bad reviews. This employee fingered me.
But so yeah, I've been in full Lynch mode, and I revisited some of his stuff. Well, it's something I hadn't seen before actually. And so, but yeah, you're a little bit newer to David Lynch. Do you want to start with some of the things of his that you watched recently?
Yeah. So of course I've always known who he is. He's kind of iconic in his look and his voice. He has an iconic voice, and he's got that even to the day he died, he had that coif of gray hair, just a silver fox.
It was cool. This is like a big wave.
Yeah, very cool. I hope my hair stays like that as I get older, even if it's gray. I think it's a good look.
Yeah.
And he's one of those guys who ascended to the heights of his name became an adjective, which I always think is cool.
Yeah.
So Lynchian. I really knew him with Twin Peaks. Something I don't want to say tried to watch twice, because the first time I did, this was probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years ago now, maybe 5, 6 years ago now. I couldn't get into it. I did start again. I didn't stop because I disliked it. I think my life just different things started happening, right?
Sure.
So I wasn't on that regular schedule, and I was like, oh, I should get back into that. It's so iconic in culture. It's very 90s. It is like that era where people still gathered around the TV. I do appreciate that kind of stuff from a cultural perspective. I don't think we've really had that since Game of Thrones.
Right.
I don't know if we ever will again. I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I know Severance, which my wife and I watched, that I was surprised that that's being released week by week now, which I'm like, they're kind of going, basically everything's becoming cable again. Yeah. Which is fun. Thus the circle of life.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Twin Peaks too is it only lasted for 2 seasons. It was when you look at the history of television, other than miniseries up until that point, it was extremely rare, if not non-existent, for a TV show to be like, this whole season is an arc. It's a whole expanding story. Right. Now it's much more common with The Sopranos and The Wire and Game of Thrones, but the idea of this is a story that's going to keep. This isn't just each episode is this one and done thing. And it was a huge influence on the X-Files. Which dealt with FBI agents dealing with the paranormal and stuff like that, and had an overarching mythology. But yeah, so the
quality of it wasn't common to TV,
right?
It wasn't. You didn't go to TV for that kind of those kind of feelings and to take in, to absorb that sort of story or quality or entertainment, I should say. So yeah, he was a pioneer in that sense. So I am going to finish Twin Peaks. I will. I really like McLaughlin's really grown on me.
Oh yeah, I love that guy now.
He's he's like Lynch's muse.
Oh yeah.
and Laura Dern. Actually, I learned I didn't realize she was, because I always like Laura Dern, big Bruce Dern fan, but I always like Laura Dern too.
Yeah.
Even if her character is very stupid and the
Blue Velvet.
No, not Blue Velvet. No, she's fine in Blue Velvet and the Star Wars.
Oh yeah, the purple haired Maldo or whatever. Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't know as much Lynch. I did watch Dune.
Oh yeah, I still haven't seen that one.
You don't need to, unfortunately, and that's not why you watch Lynch, to watch that kind of movie. It's not good, and I don't want to get into it because we're saying good things about him. Even like I watched, top David Lynch movies, and this was it's like, look, he tried to do something that wasn't really in his wheelhouse. They crammed in. As someone who has seen now both Dunes, and I've read the book, I haven't read all the books, but I've read the first one. He tried to do the impossible and basically cram all of what is now Dune 1 and 2, which are both longer, I believe, into one movie, and it just does not work.
To be fair to him, there was a lot of studio interference. The budget just kept getting bigger and bigger, and then it's supposed to be much longer. And he was going to do Dune Messiah. That was going to be the follow-up,
right?
And so I know that Lynch, who's always been very tight-lipped about his movies, he's been especially tight-lipped about. He said it's too painful for him to talk about Dune because there was so much studio interference, and it was one of those things where I think the original cut was probably 4 hours long, and the studio.
I would actually that would be better, because the way it's cut, it almost doesn't make sense.
Yes,
it's like these characters just met, they've had one scene together, and now they're like madly in love and loves to care. Like, it just doesn't. And maybe that does. I'm serious. That does happen with movies where if you just see the director's cut. It actually takes it's not just oh, okay, the movie was pretty good, and then okay, it's even better now. It's no, the movie sucked, and now it's actually a very good movie. That's how different. An example of this is Kingdom of Heaven. That movie is, I like it because the Crusader stuff, and it's cool story, but it doesn't really make sense when you start picking it apart in the regular cut. But when you actually watch, it's really Scott, right? When you actually watch the director's cut, I'm like, oh, this is such a better movie. So I would watch even if it's 4 hours, the 4-hour Dune movie from Lynch, because it'd probably be better. But it's cool. It's fun to see. It's that 80s. You can tell, it's right on the backs of Star Wars. It came out in 84. The third Star Wars, I think, is 83.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. The Return of the Jedi episode.
Which is funny. So George Lucas actually approached David Lynch to direct Return of the Jedi.
Really?
I'm dead serious. And he tells a story about it, and it's actually pretty funny. So he tells a story where he's like, so George Lucas, so at the time, David Lynch, he'd only done Eraserhead, which is not a huge hit, but it was a big hit on sort of midnight movie circuit. It was big with stoners going to watch a weird movie at night, sort of thing, right?
Sure.
And then he did the Elephant Man, which, funnily enough, actually,
I want to see
Mel Brooks. I haven't seen that one. I heard it's great, but Mel Brooks produced that one, and Mel Brooks intentionally left his name off the movie because he didn't want people to think it was a comedy or a parody.
Gotcha.
So he'd only done those 2 movies, but that was enough. But that one was critically acclaimed and got Oscar nominations and stuff. So that one kind of put David Lynch on the map. So after watching those films, I don't know why George Lucas saw those movies and was like, oh, he's perfect for Ewoks. And so, but apparently I think that was what turned off David Lynch. So he tells a story where he's like, so I went to visit George Lucas up in Northern California, and he drove me in his fancy sports car, and he took me up the, up to the studio, and we had lunch in a nice restaurant that only served salads, and then he showed me some artwork for these things called Wookiees. I think he meant Ewoks, because there's only one Wookiee at the time.
He probably meant Ewoks.
But he showed me this thing called Wookiees, and by that time I'd had a headache, and so I shook it politely, shook his hand and left. And I called my agent. And I was like, I cannot do this movie. And then he's like, relax, David, you can't. It's fine. You don't have to do it. And he goes, I called up George Lucas, who I have a lot of respect for, and I politely declined. And he goes, but my agent didn't like it because you don't know how much money you just said no to. But I mean, it takes a lot of guts to say no to George Lucas, for the opportunity to direct a Star Wars movie.
I would love to see a David Lynch Star Wars.
Return of the Jedi.
just a bit dark.
But yeah, it's Dino De Laurentiis who produced Dune. he I think got too much in the way of the production of the film, and as a kind of an olive branch, he said, "Okay, I'll produce your next film. It'll be a smaller budget, but you can do whatever you want." And that next film was Blue Velvet. So Dune actually kind of did, pave the way for a terrific film. So
yeah. So I've seen Eraserhead, I've seen Dune, and I've seen Blue Velvet, and I've seen a handful of maybe like half of the first season of Twin Peaks. I was between Inland Empire and Dune. I'm like, I have to. I'm such a fan of Dune.
Yes.
I have to see this. It's like it's iconic for its like for what it tried to do and how it kind of flopped. So I wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Some of the last thing I'll say about Dune, I think just way too much inner monologue. That's what ruined the movie for me. If it was like, I can get over bad graphics. It was the 80s, like even okay, not cut, but like inner monologue kills me. That to me is just like not. You really want to limit that, and it wasn't just to one character either. We could be like, okay, well, this is through this character's perspective. So we'll move on from Dune because I also watched Blue Velvet.
Yeah. So what do you think of that one?
I really liked Blue Velvet. That was a I almost said a fun movie. It's not fun. It's dark. And when I learned more about David Lynch, really from this podcast, talking with you, like he's all what I like about him. It's all about undercurrents and emotion and these like competing. I was just watching you, so this is like an original thought of mine. So I watched some YouTube videos about it, and it's like these competing forms of the psyche, like the id, which is represented through the villain's character. I'm blanking on his name.
Frank Booth. Yeah.
Frank. Yeah. Played by
Dennis Hopper.
Dennis Hopper. Yes, I almost said Dustin Hoffman. I don't do that. Very different actors. Dennis Hopper, and then like the ego and the super ego, and how even I was reading an article before we hopped on about like how the beer that they drink represents. It's like the dad drinks Budweiser, McLaughlin drinks Heineken, and Hopper. Frank drinks PBR, and I thought that was I like that kind of stuff. And at first I'm like, oh, okay, like Heineken in this was 86, and it was like the cool. I don't know if it was a new beer, but because like I'm watching Mad Men, they talk about Heineken in the 60s, but it was like a hip beer to drink. It's imported and it's green and it's kind of. Or like Budweiser, that's like what the dads drink. Even my dad still drinks Budweiser. Right. And PBR is like the working man's beer. Like it's kind of that like working class angry beer. Like that kind of stuff. And I really liked the acting in it. I loved not Laura Dern, but the other female lead who's, kind of the center of the story.
Isabella Rossellini.
Yeah, is that Isabella Rossellini?
Yeah, and it's funny because she was married to Lynch for a bit after that, and then she was married to Martin Scorsese at some point as well. So that's like her. She's like the like Pete Davidson, just going around collecting babes. Like she was kind of going around collecting like Oscar-nominated directors. So just like
nice. I think she was just nominated for an Oscar.
Oh, really?
She's in Conclave, which like I saw that. I liked it. I know a lot of people criticize it because it's like it can be like a little progressive, but I still thought it was a very good movie. But I'm like, she's barely in it, and she's nominated for like supporting actress. But I have this argument every year. I'm like, I think there needs to be like a minimum screen time, for you to get even a supporting actress, because she seems like she was barely in it. It was like, what's her name winning it for Crazy Fantastical Mythical Asians?
Oh yes. Or William Hurt for History of Violence, the David Cronenberg movie. He only showed up in the last scene. He's got like 10 minutes of screen time, but he got an Oscar nomination. And then Anthony Hopkins.
I do like William Hurt though.
Yeah, William's a great actor, and he was good in the role. But it was also like you were in one scene, I think.
Wait, History of Violence.
Yeah, with Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah. Oh, is that what that's called?
Yeah.
Dude, that's the first time I ever watched an actor eat box in a movie.
Oh yeah. And then Anthony Hopkins won for leading actor, even though he's only got 15 minutes of screen time or something in The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
That performance.
I get a little more because that is an iconic performance.
It's an iconic performance, but it's interesting because it's an important performance.
Wait, did you get supporting or lead?
Lead. But he
only
has
a lead. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's different. No.
Yeah. It was a great, again, a terrific performance. But it's like in terms of screen time, it's like there were
I thought he was I thought it was like 9 minutes or something. Like it was like it's very short, but I didn't realize he got that for lead. No,
Yeah.
You should have got supporting.
But yeah, I mean, David Lynch is a fascinating guy because tying this back into Blue Velvet. So he grew up in Missoula, Montana. So he grew up like in a small town, with picket fences and tree-lined streets, and it was like a very idyllic town. But for him, he was always kind of like, and you see it so much in so many of his films where it's like on the one hand it's sort of like postcard picturesque, but there's also this weird disturbing underside to it as well. And so Blue Velvet, I think, was the first film that really explored that. I'm reading a book. It's not by him, but it's called Someone Is in My House, and it's a collection of David Lynch's paintings, which are pretty terrific, and then interspersed with essays.
Cool.
Because he actually started off as a painter, and there's a quote from an interview with him that's featured in this thing where he's talking about how he grew up in this small town and it's like picture perfect, and he would go up to like a really nice like apple tree or something, but then he would see like the tree was bleeding, and then there was something oozing out of it, and then be ants crawling all over, and so he's just kind of fascinated by like the grotesque and the beautiful picturesque. I mean, Blue Velvet has that terrific opening montage of like this idyllic, small town America scene.
And then all the, what are they, like cockroaches or like all the bugs kind of going.
Oh yeah. And then there's like that close up into the grass, and then like the sound effects get all distorted and weird. And Blue Velvet was a pretty terrific one. And then also just some really interesting. So he got an Oscar nomination for directing that, and it's like that's the only nomination that movie got. Was just, it's such a weird movie, but it was so well directed. Like we can't help but we cannot ignore this. Like, because there's some weird things. Like, remember the scene when they're at Frank Booth's apartment, or no, he at his friend's apartment. Kyle MacLachlan's there, and that guy's singing, and then Frank Booth's like, "Yeah, let's go out. I want to fuck. I'll fuck everything that moves," and then he just disappears. Like it's just like it's like a cut. Like. You know what I mean? We're just like, what a weird thing to do.
When is that when they're at the they're at like that, it was like a brothel type thing? I couldn't get
I think so. It was they go to someone's apartment, or someone's house, and that guy he's singing with the lamp, and
I thought that was like an underground type.
Maybe that's what it was. It's been a while since I've seen that, but I just remember that shot where Frank Booth's like, "Oh, fuck everything that moves," and then he just disappears automatically. Like it's like there's just some wild directorial choices in that thing.
It's a very. I'm a big fan of it. I haven't written my review for it yet, but I thought it. I mean, now the whole the underbelly of suburbia that's been done 1,000 times. I feel like that's huge in the 90s too.
Oh yeah.
But this, this was in the 80s, and it felt like it wasn't. It felt like it wasn't over the top, and it wasn't like, here's the picture perfect white picket fence family, but the dad's a pedophile, and the mom's on drugs, and little Jimmy's a school shooter. Like it felt like it was more. I mean, you wouldn't use this term a lot with Lynch, but like more grounded. It was disturbing, but not in like a gross way. I thought it was a really cool movie. Like you don't watch a Lynch movie for like a 3-act story, right? That's not what it's about. And I look at Lynch now, and why I think I appreciate him more is I kind of look at Lynch in the way that you would look at not what's the term I'm looking for, art,
like avant-garde or
I was thinking avant-garde, but abstract, like abstract art type thing, where it's like, well, what is it evoking? Like, what's the feeling it's giving? And he does that, and I don't, because I'm not a fan of just like weird, gross shit, quick cuts. Like I actually really dislike that, and I think that's what bad avant-garde film tries to do, where it's just like woman screaming and splatter on the walls and a car, and now here's a little child with a balloon. Like it's like weird shit. Like I don't like that. Lynch, it's still a movie, and that's what I like about it. It's not some graduate film school short film. So it's still a movie with a plot. It's just everything's a little off kilter. Everything's a little weird. It can be a little gross and unsettling is probably one of the best terms for it. I know. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, you like Lynch in the same way that you like who's the writer? Oh God, New England guy.
Oh, Lovecraft.
Yeah, Lovecraftian, right? Like I would say, like, don't you think they're kind of similar? And
I think Lovecraft's, at least in terms of story structure, is a little more classical. I think his ideas are pretty out there. But Lynch is definitely plays it much more fast and loose when it comes to story structure and ideas and themes.
Yeah, I guess Lovecraft has more of a like, well, all this is happening because of this thing, right?
Yeah,
because of this force, this whatever it is, subterranean or extraterrestrial, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where Lynch, I get that, but I mean more. So I guess I'm saying like more like the feeling of it, the unsettling nature of the art.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I like that too. It's very cool. I mean, I do plan. I'm surprised actually that Lynch's he doesn't have more movies. Doesn't that surprise you?
He's true, but he's also done a lot of other stuff. He's done a lot of short films. He's done music videos. He also did a few commercials for PlayStation 2 back in the late 90s. And when you watch them, dude, so if I were to send you one, like even if I didn't give you any background, I just said, hey, here's a 1-minute commercial for PlayStation 2 from the late 90s. Tell me what you think of it. I guarantee you, if you would be able to watch that and go, this feels like a David Lynch thing. This feels like something from Twin Peaks. It's so fucking obvious. And like on the one hand, it's almost like David Lynch kind of going up his own ass. But in the other hand, it's like he has 1 minute to work with. He's going to go fucking all out. It's I don't want to tell you what it is, but it's when you get a chance, look up David Lynch PS2 commercial, and it's so David Lynchian. It's so
like all this looks good. Like Elephant Man, I want to say that's actually like one of the classic movie lines. Like I know the famous line, "I'm not an animal, I'm a human being."
I'm a man. Yep.
Wild at Heart. I'm seeing ones I have not seen yet. Obviously, I'm gonna watch anything with Nick Cage. Lost
That's a great
Highway.
one, and he's wild in that one too, dude.
Yeah, well, of course, Nick Cage. But Lost Highway, The Straight Story was actually on my list already. But this is like a kids movie.
Well, it's a G-rated Disney movie. And
Right.
I think David Lynch, and again, he didn't expound on this, but I think he said it was his most experimental. And from what I understand, what I've read from other people was like, what he meant by that was that it was an experiment, not because it was weird and avant-garde or anything. It was an experiment for him because it was his attempt at like a more straightforward movie. But I've talked to some people who watched it, like, no, it's a great movie. It's a really, heartfelt movie. But there's some interesting things where you go, that's Lynch. That's him doing something interesting with light or editing.
That was on my list, and I didn't know that he directed that. So that was there for some other reason. So let's go. Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive. I know that's like the darkness of Hollywood, right? Which very Night of what is it? Night of the Locust or whatever.
Oh yeah, Night of the Locust. From 75. Yeah.
And then Inland Empire. That just interests me. One, this movie poster is just so 2000s. I don't know if you know the one I'm talking about, the black and white one. It looks like something I could have made on like PowerPoint or something.
No, seriously, and it's something that you absolutely could have, because that was the first movie that David Lynch shot digitally, and it's not like it was. This was like with a DV, like a camera that you can buy from Best Buy at the time. This was, and so it's funny because like. And if I would work up to that one. I would watch like watch them in chronological order. So I would start with Wild at Heart, then Lost Highway, Mulholland Drive, and then Inland Empire, because they gradually get weirder and crazier. And also Inland Empire is 3 hours long. It's a great movie, but it's really weird. And David Lynch was making it up as he went along. He called up Laura Dern because she's the main actress in that. He called her up and he said, "Hey, want to come experiment with me?" That was it wasn't like, I have a script, let me know what you think. It was. Each day, apparently, he would come in with new pages, and he just brought a bunch of his favorite actors. It's funny because it's got a pretty good cast. So it's got Laura Dern, Justin Theroux, Jeremy Irons, and a couple other semi-big people. Jeremy Irons is in it. So it's got a few like pretty big stars, but it's also like it looks like a student movie. It's so shittily like the quality sucks. David Lynch operated the camera himself, so it's just always constantly like kind of shaky. The editing, but it's also really cool, and it's also for Lynch the reason why he loved digital, which was like when you're shooting on film, like the big film canisters that go into a camera, they only last for just under 10 minutes. Whereas with the digital camera, even a digital camera back in the early 2000s, you could go for 40 minutes straight without having to cut. So he like the idea of being able to like Yeah, I can just walk you through this whole scene without yelling cut. We can just do it a bunch of times and I don't have to reset every 10 minutes. So that's the result. It's like a big budget, not big budget, a big studio produced student film. So
Right. I mean,
but work up to it.
I'll watch it eventually.
Yeah. Wild at Heart is cool. So have you noticed this in the mid 80s to like probably like mid 90s, Hollywood went through this phase of road movies, specifically of like lovers going on the road. So you had Near Dark, which was a vampire western movie that involves.
I have seen Near Dark. I like
Near
it.
Dark's cool. Then there's The Hitcher,
I don't
which
know that one.
That was a pretty cool one where like this couple, they're going on a cross country trip and then they pick up a hitchhiker who turns out to be a serial killer played by Rutger Hauer. That's a pretty cool one.
Ooh.
That came in 86. And then you had Wild at Heart. You had Natural Born Killers. You had California. You had but yeah, there's a bunch of like road movies.
Yeah, you're right. There are all these. Yeah,
the Tarantino one that he wrote, True Romance.
True Romance.
That had a big road trip element to it. So yeah, there's just like lovers on the run thing.
Yeah, I like those movies. I like road movies.
They're cool. They're all good movies, at least all the ones I've seen. But it's like I wonder what was going on through America at the time, or in Hollywood at the time, of like lovers on the run in a violent, sexual road trip.
Those are all like early 90s, right?
Like late 80s to mid 90s. Yeah,
I actually get all those movies confused. California's Brad Pitt with a K. California with a K.
Yeah, and
I've seen that. I've seen True Romance. I've seen Natural Born Killers. Which one's Woody Harrelson? Natural Born Killers.
That's Natural Born Killers.
Yeah, and True Romance is S. What's his name? Someone with an S.
Oh, it's what's his face's brother? Ridley Scott's brother.
Scott's brother.
Tony Scott. Tony Scott did. He directed.
Oh no, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh,
the actor, Christian Slater, right?
Oh yeah. But yeah, so I'm fascinated by why Hollywood went through this road trip phase, specifically lovers on the run.
Yeah, literally, I think California and True Romance came out the same year. I think they did. 93.
Yeah.
It's Natural Born Killers. What was going on in?
And then in 95, there was the Doom Generation.
Was 94. Damn, it was the early 90s. What was going on then?
And then the Doom Generation came out in 95. That was like Natural Born Killers, but with teenagers. Still another big, a violent sexual road trip movie.
I like the night one. Which one's that? The vampires.
Oh, Near Dark. That was cool.
Dark. Yeah, I actually heard that was 87. I heard that on that episode that pod Tarantino does with
from the video archives or from the archives.
I think it's like that. But can you like not get that anymore? Or I think you have to like buy it.
Yeah, you have to like subscribe to get the full episode. And I think they do it in seasons. I think they'll just do a handful of episodes once every few months or something.
I heard him talk about because he was doing just like movies from the 80s, I think. And Near Dark. That one, it's bloody.
Yeah, that's a cool one. I like that one. And that was Cameron's ex-wife who went on to do Hurt Locker. I forgot her name. But anyway, getting back to Lynch. So Wild at Heart is cool. It's a really wild one. It's funny because like he can be hyper violent and hyper like, like his films can have a lot of violence and a lot of like just degeneracy, but also be like weirdly lighthearted in a way too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that in Wild at Heart. It's still kind of like a touching romance, and it's still like kind of like goofy sitcom humor, but mixed with like some perverted and violent stuff.
His movies look good. I mean, maybe not Inland Empire, but the other ones look good. I love his use of like diners. Like I know that's a big thing. McLaughlin and Twin Peaks is always like talking about the coffee and the pie. And in Blue Velvet, they shoot a lot in a diner. And it's like the juxtaposition of the diner versus the like nightclub.
Well, there's a diner that he used to eat at a lot, and I think we almost went. It was Bob's Big Boy Burgers in Burbank, and it's a lot of bees.
Yeah, we didn't go though.
We didn't. I think we passed by it, but it was
we went to the place where Reservoir Dogs their first scene.
Oh right, but so Bob's Big. So David Lynch used to eat there every day for like 7 years or something. It's just like
every day. Every
single day, and he would go like at 2:30 in the afternoon because that was after the lunch rush. And he would get these. So he's very much a creature of habit. So he would get the same thing every day. He would get burger and a milkshake. And he goes, and then they would give they put the milkshake in the big goblet, and he goes, I liked it. It was a great place to write because if you needed paper, you could just ask, if you needed a pen, you just ask for a pen or a pencil, and if you needed paper, they had napkins right there, so it was a great place to do some writing.
Yeah.
But he stopped eating there because he went behind the dumpster behind it, and he found the containers that the milkshakes came in, and he goes, and I couldn't recognize a single ingredient, so I stopped eating.
Oh, jeez. How did he not get fat eating a burger and milkshake every day?
I guess the cigarettes kept him skinny,
That's
or maybe that was his only meal. Maybe he just ate one big ass meal.
He ate. Yeah.
Okay, so Twin Peaks. So Twin Peaks is interesting. So it was just 2 seasons initially, and then he did a movie called Fire Walk with Me, which was sort of like a prequel to it, and that one's pretty wild. It's interesting because it's an R-rated version of Twin. It's funny because when I was watching Twin Peaks, I'm like, this is cool, but it was also on ABC. It was like a prime time.
Right.
So obviously they couldn't get too graphic or sexual or violent or anything. So it was like it was almost like a watered down David Lynch in a way. But then when you watch Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, the movie, because it's R-rated, it's like this is like a goofy TV show that has a bunch of violence and sex in it now. So it's interesting how it's kind of playing both sides of that. And then
that came out in 92.
Yeah. And then there was Twin Peaks: The Missing Pieces, because the movie was a lot longer, so he cut out a bunch of scenes, and apparently like that fills in even more details. It's a whole mythology. And then he came back to do The Return for Showtime, I think, in 2017.
Yeah.
And that was even wilder and crazier. So it's just like this weird fragmented fractal mythology that started with this goofy TV show in the 90s. It's worth getting into, but it's also pretty weird and wild. And there's some tie-in novels as well that explain even more. They're written by the show's co-writer Mark Frost, I believe. But yeah, Twin Peaks, that's a whole like MCU style thing in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna finish it, and then I'll get to all that stuff eventually. But I just have to finish the show because it is so iconic. Has he won Academy Awards?
He won an honorary one a few years back, but he's been nominated for 4, I think. So he was nominated for 2 for Best Director and I think Screenplay for The Elephant Man. And then he was nominated, and then I like the other 2 are just director, like. So is Blue Velvet and then Mulholland Drive. Same thing. Mulholland Drive didn't get any other nominations. Just this is a really well-directed movie.
Right. Yeah. And then his first movie, Eraserhead, we did an episode on that, right?
Yeah, we talked about that
episode.
One. Yeah.
Eraserhead is very cool. Great look to it. Oh, yeah. And I think, is that all like Philly? Is that supposed to be like Philly or Pittsburgh? Somewhere in Pennsylvania?
I think he shot that in LA, I think.
Yeah, but I think it's supposed to be. I thought it's supposed to be Pennsylvania.
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's named in the movie.
Iconic movie poster, like an all-time movie poster.
Oh yeah.
It's like I remember that poster like growing up and just having no idea what that was about. But you were just like cool. It would be like that. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah.
Was a classic one that you just see years before you actually ever saw the movie.
Oh yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like the film school students would have posters of that, or like the potheads would have. So what were some other Lynch things that you watched?
I think that's it. I did Dune. Like this week, I just did Dune and Blue Velvet. I've seen Eraserhead, and I've done some of Twin Peaks. I wanted to do Lost Highway. I can't even get it. I don't know if you can even stream it right now. And Mulholland Drive, I don't know if they're even like available. I don't just mean like free. I mean like even available.
So, yeah, track those down if you can. Like maybe go to the library and rent them there or something.
Yeah, the library might have them. But yeah, they've been on my list actually for like a while, and I don't think I've ever seen them come up for free or even to rent. Like I'll just rent them, but I like it. It doesn't even like have the option,
right?
So but maybe I'm at the library. I have looked. I'll check again though.
Maybe Amazon, but you might have to pay to rent from Amazon.
But even still, like that's fine. They don't. It's like it's not even an option.
Yeah. Well, I guess you just have to get it illegally. You might have to hold up a
That's why, I mean, it's honestly,
Tower Records.
I'm not even kidding. I got a DVD player.
Yeah.
So I can like get free movies or movies that aren't available for streaming. And it's been great. Like my wife and I are watching Mad Men. She's never seen it. I've seen it. So I'm rewatching it. And it's like they want you to get. I'm not getting AMC Plus. Like, are you kidding? I'm like, wait a minute. I checked the library and they have them all there.
Oh, nice.
It's great. Yeah, the quality's not the best always. It doesn't look the best, but hey, it's free and we get to watch it, and I have to pay for another streaming service.
Yeah.
So it's pretty great. But yeah, that's so. Again, I'm gonna watch all his movies eventually. Like, there's not one here that I'm like, oh, I'm not. I wouldn't watch that. Yeah. I'm gonna wait on Inland Empire. I feel like
work up to that one. But and on Netflix, there's what did Jack do? I think. Did you watch that one at all?
Oh wait, what is that?
It's a short film that he did. It's pretty weird, but it's pretty funny.
Like a monkey.
Yeah. So David Lynch plays like a detective, and it's in black and white.
He's in it.
Yeah, he's in it. Yeah, he plays the main character. Actually, he plays a detective. It's almost like a parody of like film noir detective movies.
Yeah,
because it's really darkly humorous. I wouldn't even say dark. It's just a very dry sense of humor. But so David Lynch plays a detective, and he's interrogating a monkey. Yeah. It's the monkey, like this ring-tailed lemur or something, and like they digitally added David Lynch. So David Lynch, he provides the voice of the monkey, not only his voice, but he also they digitally took his mouth and put it on the monkey, so he's talking to himself, and he's just asking a bunch of like weird non sequitur questions to this monkey. And he's like smoking a cigarette and just. Yeah, it's a very odd movie, but I think it's like 17 minutes long or something. It's not that long at all.
I saw it as a joke on one of the like YouTube videos I was watching, like top Lynch movies, and for number one, it was like, "What did Jack do?" Just kidding. And I was like, I think his number one was Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, that's probably his masterpiece. I think.
You think so?
I think so. It's probably the one that encompasses.
Dude, what has Naomi Watts been up to? She was so big. When did that come out? Yeah, like the early 2000s.
Yeah.
She was huge.
Yeah, I had such a big crush on her. She's so pretty.
Yeah, she is.
Like scary pretty. But like, yeah, so she's
the
been
Ring, right? She was the Ring
movies, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
and then she was in Twin Peaks: The Return.
The movie scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
Like that movie legit scared me.
Yeah.
What was The Ring? Like 2000, 2001?
I think so.
It's like 12.
Yeah, I was 13 when that one came out. And that one the opening sequence, my friend pointed out, he goes, that's a perfect short film in and of itself right there. Like just before the opening credits, like just like that one scene of the two girls and they're playing, they're joking around with the rumor, that the urban legend, but then there's a false scare and then she has to die. So yeah, it's a perfect short story in and of itself right there.
That opening scene and the Scream opening scene are like two of my favorite horror movie opening scenes.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I love David Lynch so much, not just for like his film and his output, but also just him as an artist. Like he's one of those like Judson Vereen, where it's like there's like this purity where it's just like everything he does is just creative and unique, and he's super passionate and he doesn't give a shit about
where is Judson?
Huh?
Where is Judson?
Oh, I know. We got to hit him up. We got to get him back on
an episode with that.
Well, he got sick. So
yeah, but that was like a month ago. Is he still alive?
I hope so. He's been publishing stuff on Substack.
Judson, so. I imagine this very well might not be true, but I just imagine Judson being like the gringo in his like Brazilian town, because he doesn't live in like Rio. He lives in like some like inland town with this Brazilian. If I just imagine him being like the white gringo guy, just being an artist, doing weird shit, and the Brazilian's like, who the fuck is this guy? I love Judson. Great.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, man. But like Judson, like there's like this purity, like this artistic purity, where it's just like there are only a handful of people who I know of who are like that. I think Werner Herzog, where they're just so committed to like a vision, and they don't care if you like it or hate it or if you understand it, but they're just like, they just keep doing it no matter what.
My aunt got me one of his books actually for Christmas.
Werner Herzog?
Mm-hmm.
Which one is it? The bear one, the bear behind you, or chasing the bear, or whatever?
I don't think so.
Or is it a book that he wrote?
I think it's a book he wrote.
Oh, okay.
Or no, I actually don't know. I just know that it's him. It's on my bookshelf. I don't know if he wrote it. I think it's a biography.
Oh, I have one of his books, but it's a book of interviews with him. So.
Wait, he did Grizzly Man?
Yeah.
Shit. Anyway, I have a book about him to read. Oh, this one. It's Every Man for Himself and God Against All, a memoir. So he wrote it.
Oh, that's super. What a cool title.
That's pretty cool.
But Lynch, he was just such an artist, and he's also like, he did the sound design and he did a lot of music for his movies as well. He was also kind of a songwriter and musician. So one of the things I love about him as an artist, though, is that he refused to tell anybody what his films were about. He refused to say.
I appreciate that.
I love that so much, especially nowadays when, like this hyper political world. We have, the directors and the writers and the actors say, "Oh, this film's about this. It's about commenting on that." The villain in my movie is a parody of Jordan Peterson, where it's like, it's like you just removed all the ambiguity and all the mystery out of it. Whereas David Lynch, so there's that meme, and I actually found the source of this meme, that meme where he's in an interview and it's him saying primary colors are bullshit, and then the interviewer goes, "Can you elaborate on that?" And then he goes, "No." So I actually found the source of it. He doesn't say primary color. He's talking about Eraserhead. He goes, "Believe it or not, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film." And then the interviewer goes, "Can you elaborate on that?" And then he goes, "No." So, oh, that's what he really said. But I love that. I sent you. So he was kind of active on Twitter for a bit. I sent you that thing where, like, the first tweet, and this was
active on Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. You did send me that.
It's him on Twitter.
I didn't put that together.
It was June 18th, 2010. He says, "This weekend, I'm going to try to find out if I'm connected to the moon." And then 3 days later, he tweets, "I'm pretty sure I'm connected to the moon." But I love it. I have this book of his called Catching the Big Fish, and it's just like it comprised of like one to two page chapters basically, and each one's just a different theme. It's pretty inspirational. Like, he does have some interesting advice, but a lot of it is just random thoughts. Like, he'll talk about, like, I love to write, and when I write, I imagine this and this and that. So, that's kind of cool. Like, look at your creative process. But there will be like just 2 paragraphs. And it's like, "I love donuts. The thing I love about donuts is that they're sweet, and one is more than enough to fill you up, and it's great, nutritious, breakfast." And then the next one is like, "I love cigarettes. Cigarettes in the morning, especially. Morning cigarettes are the best." And then the next one is like, "I like to meditate because it helps me," and blah, blah, blah. But it's just sort of like, it's just him bouncing around. It's just like his thoughts throughout the day. And it's less inspirational in like a pragmatic, like, here's how to, like, develop your voice as an artist. And it's more inspirational. Like, this is what goes through this genius's head, just random, like, donuts and cigarettes and fish. And he's completely unironic. He's completely sincere in every single thing that he says and does. And it's kind of inspiring in that sense, where it's like, oh, he's not like always coming up with brilliant ideas. Sometimes he just likes donuts and cigarettes in the morning. So
I love that. I'm looking.
What you looking at?
Just Twitter, David Lynch. Our stuff comes up a bunch of our episodes. Oh yes, he's the only good part of the Fablemans.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he played John Ford at the end, right?
Yeah, that's right. He was very good in that.
And he's also good casting for that, because I watched some old interviews with John Ford, and I'm like, yeah, that's actually, he does kind of have, he's a tough guy, but he also has a little bit of a high pitched voice. So David Lynch was actually perfect casting for that.
Yeah, what's he say? It's like,
the paintings. He's pointing out the paintings.
Yeah, it's like, get the fuck out.
And apparently, so Spielberg said, like, that's almost word for word what happened to him. Spielberg, I think, added a little bit of a happy ending to that scene, because then the little boy, the young boy, he comes back into his office. He goes, "By the way, thank you, sir." And then John Ford goes, "My pleasure, buddy." And he walks off. Apparently that did not happen. Spielberg said he walked out of the office and he was heartbroken.
Yeah.
So I think he had a little bit of encouragement at the end there.
Yeah. The movie kind of sucked. I was not a fan.
I haven't heard great things about it.
Super weird.
I just heard it's very Oscar baity, and I'm
gonna be in a Spielberg movie.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, I'm gonna be I told my wife, I'm gonna be Spielberg's muse. He's gonna look at me and go, "That guy." The next 10 movies, it's just gonna be me.
You're gonna be like the Samuel L. Jackson to his Tarantino,
Yeah.
or the DiCaprio to his
Yeah.
Scorsese. Like,
We're kind of doing an inside
Yeah.
joke thing here. Spielberg is filming a movie in Cape May, New Jersey, and my wife, who's an actor, and basically they're looking for extras. My wife, who's an actor, was like, "Yeah, do you want to send a resume, like something to them?" I'm like, "I don't have anything." Like, "Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You just send it. Say when you're available. Send a picture, and like you're an extra, and they might use you or something." I'm like, "All right, great." So I did, and we'll see.
Nice, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be fun.
I don't know what the local reporting is. It said something about like UFOs or something, but I'm like, he already did Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I'd be surprised if he did another. Andy did E.T.
E.T.
I'm
Yeah,
like, do you think he's going to do another extraterrestrial movie, another alien movie?
I think so. That's what I've been hearing. I heard that
Yeah?
he wanted to. He developed a sequel for E.T. I think called like Night Skies or Watch the Skies or something like that, and it was supposed to be kind of a darker
I
sequel.
like
I don't know if he's returning to that idea or.
I love the tweet that's like, imagine if you go to ET's planet and they're all wearing pants. We just got the pervert who came to our planet. He got exiled. He's some like pederast.
Well, did you ever know?
We help him go home where he just molest other little aliens. God damn it.
You know what's weird? What like have you been to any Universal Studios? Like, have you been to?
Yes.
Have you been on the ET ride?
I think so. I don't
So
remember. Which I feel bad because my parents spent a lot of money for me and my siblings to go, and I remember very little of it to these theme parks.
Yeah. They I think spending any money on you is a waste. But I think the one at Universal Studios, which I don't think is there anymore. So I guess they, because it's not like, there's only so much material in that movie that you can turn into like a ride. So
it's obviously the bike, right?
Yeah, it's the bike, but you're just flying through the town, and there's a police officer. Like, so what they did was they on the ride, you go back to his planet, and it's just like this weird, goofy. It's really cheesy. It has like, because it's not in the movie, but it's just like a generic alien, like bunch of limbs and squid things and floating flowers and shit. And it's like, this is so weird. Like, you guys ran out of ideas, so like, let's just come up with generic.
Put something. I don't care. They're already on the ride. Take it off. I've been to I've been to all of those. I remember Islands of Adventure was probably my favorite. I just like remember that as a kid being like, that's the best one. Spider-Man ride was sweet. I do remember that. I remember Jurassic Park. I don't remember where that was. Universal, I assume, right? Yeah. And my favorite was, because we actually talked about this recently at work. We had like Icebreaker, which is what was your favorite ride, and mine is Space Mountain. Definitely my favorite.
Yeah.
But do you guys have all the same stuff out there? Because I'm talking about the Florida one.
Yeah, the Universal Studios here does not have the Islands of Adventure. It's just like, but there's a studio backlot tour, which I don't. So the Universal Studios, apparently it was an actual working studio for a bit. I think mostly for Nickelodeon projects at the time. I don't know if it still is, but like, like it's also like a real film studio going on at Universal Studios. Disneyland, I know I haven't been to Disney World, but I heard that it's much bigger than Disneyland.
I've always heard it's cleaner. I've always heard Disneyland is really dirty, but I don't know if that's true.
It's been a while since I've been, and I don't know if I'm going to be going back anytime soon, because it's just, from what I've been hearing.
Is that in like Orange County?
Yeah, it's in Anaheim.
Yeah.
And from what I've been hearing, it's you're getting much less for much, and you have to pay much more.
Yeah, it's called America. It's like everything.
Yeah.
You also just turn LA into its own theme park. Just like, don't get stabbed by this homeless person on your way home.
Well, at the Disney World,
traffic.
Exactly. Well, the Disney World
ride.
The Disney World has like a Hollywood themed ride, I think. It's funny because also, isn't there a Hollywood, Florida?
Don't step in the shit. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So I wrote an essay. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it just yet, or maybe I've done something with it. But anyway, I wrote this article about David Lynch
Oh yeah.
called David, and I wrote this on the day that he passed away. I won't read the whole thing. I'll read a section from it. But it's called David Lynch, the quiet bad boy of surrealist cinema. So I have this quote from David Lynch that I used to open the article. When you finish anything, people want you then to talk about it. And I think it's almost like a crime, a film or a painting. Each thing is its own sort of language, and it's not right to try to say the same thing in words. The words are not there. The language of film, cinema, is the language it was put into, and the English language, it's not going to translate. It's going to lose. So this is the article is just sort of about like, because I think it takes a lot of guts for an artist to just say like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it's about. And I'm going to let you, because, you know, I think there's a sort of insecurity involved in, you know, describing, like making sure people understand everything that you did. You know, I don't want people to misinterpret it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, it could also just be like a human urge.
It's also, well, just from I think a more basic business perspective, it's like, no, the studio, the producer, they want you out there talking about building the buzz, all of that. Like, oh, this is, and it does take, one, I don't know if people have, I don't know what these contracts look like, but do they have to, right? It's like, look, you didn't just sign on to make this movie. Like, you also have to do all the PR and the marketing for all of that. And you have to build it up. And it does feel like slavish, and it is kind of a turnoff, even though I understand it. So like a true artist who can do that, who has, like, it's very enviable to just be like, yeah, I made this movie, I wrote this book, made this painting, whatever. It's like, that's it. Like, I did it. I put in a lot of work in this. Like, this wasn't easy. I'm not going to now go tell you what to think of it. Art changes over time. Even movie, like, things take on new meanings. Things are interpreted different ways. And I think that's part of the beauty of it, which is less frequent nowadays. And I do appreciate that about him.
Oh yeah. And I would love to see more filmmakers and more musicians and writers do that, but you know, and you know, and you raise a good point about the obligation to do like press junkets and all that stuff. And so, you know, if you're gonna stay tight-lipped about what your movie's about, it's like you have to be pretty good at coming up with things to talk about, or not coming off like a dick if the interviewer says, "Oh, so what inspired this movie? What's the movie about?" And then it's like, how do you dodge that in a polite way?
What I also appreciate him just going over his filmography. It's like, yeah, he did try to do the big. He did try to do Dune, right? Like, but it's not like one of these directors who, again, no, I'm not casting aspersions at them. Who, like a Sam Raimi, who will do like The Evil Dead, right? Like this really cool indie, innovative horror movie, and then he's doing like Spider-Man, and he's like kind of doing that stuff to this day. I don't know if he does anything else. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they go and they get the bag for that and go back. Like David Lynch, in fact, Dune is one of his worst movies. I think he would admit that. At least what is out there, not the director's cut. It's not what he's known for. He's known, and I think that's so cool. Like, he's known for these quote unquote Lynchian movie. Like, he created his own adjective because he stuck to himself. He stuck to these underpinnings of things like Hollywood, suburban life, the what was I was just reading it. It's like the juxtaposition of the macabre with the mundane. Like, that's he didn't just then make a name for himself and go produce, you know, he was making movies a lot in the Eraserhead was late 70s, so he was in like the prime of like 80s big blockbuster movies. He could have gone and done that at some point. Maybe, honestly, you know, he might, when you're at that age, you might not want to hear this, but maybe Dune being a flop was the best thing for him. Like in terms of his, because he has this amazing legacy. Some people don't care about that, but he has this amazing legacy. He didn't just sell out. And he made all these really cool movies, and he even went and did stuff like a Disney movie, but with his own spin on it. Like, again, I haven't seen it yet, but it's supposed to be very good. The Straight Story, and I can appreciate that too.
And it's interesting because, you know, on the one hand, I of course I absolutely, you know, applaud him for saying no to Return of the Jedi. On the other hand, I mean, it's like, you know, it could also be seen as like that for any other filmmaker that would taking that job would have been a very good business move. Where it's just sort of like, okay, I'll do the movie. I'm not super passionate about it, but I'll do it because, you know, it's a guaranteed hit, and it will, you know, boost my credibility, and I can have more freedom to do more projects because I'll be able to say, hey, I directed Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I have the script. I know it's weird, but
Right.
but my last movie made $400 million, so he could have done.
Yeah.
And a lot of directors do that. And again, I'm not. You know, I definitely understand that of like, I did the big budget thing just to get my name in there. Now I could do the stuff that I.
But so many of them don't do that.
True. Yeah.
And that's what, and like that, because that's how I feel like if I had this ability, right? And like, I feel like maybe I would do that. And it's probably easier said than done.
Right.
But like, okay, you get your bag, and then you go and make what you really love and you're passionate about, and you make these connections, and you can have your muses, right? You can have the same actors and actresses in your movies, and like, okay, they're not going to be making $450 million, but you're rich. It doesn't matter. Like, you can go make things that will stand the test of time. Like, people are still watching Eraserhead.
Yes.
People are still watching Blue Velvet, like, and they're appreciating them in 2025. And like, look at like Dune doesn't hold up, like, I just see so many of these directors who then it's like that's all they do is they started out making these cool, innovative, interesting movies, and then they just keep making the same kind of Marvel slop. And I mean, it's like, how much money do you need?
Yeah, right.
Like, I just don't get it. But again, I'm not in that position, so maybe it's easier said than done.
So
I like to believe. I just want to say as well. I like to hold these feelings and just believe them, and never have them tested.
No, you're very corruptible. No, so David Lynch has this great quote, and I tried looking for it. So I can't quite find the exact one, but I'll paraphrase it. But it was something to the effect of, "I love being at the bottom. I love being in obscurity because you have so much freedom. So even if you fail, people will not notice." And I'm like, I like that. That, like, what a cool attitude to be like. I'd rather be an unknown where I can just do whatever the hell I want, and if people like it, cool.
I think he hit, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I think I hear what you're saying, and I think he hit what I say this as someone who doesn't have any fame,
right?
But he has that sweet spot where it's like people know you, you are famous and you're successful, right? But it's like you're not Denzel Washington, you're not Brad Pitt, you're not Leo, but like people who love your work and also just love cinema or whatever you're in, right? If you're a writer, an artist, whatever, like you are huge to them. And that's what if I could pick, that's what I would want to be. I would want to be like, I'm well known in a certain subculture or something. I'll be like, people, it's bullshit. Like, people want success. Like that's bullshit. It's how does that success manifest in terms of like, do you need like millions and millions of dollars and to have like the big, like being the Disney Marvel type shit, or like success is in like critical acclaim, your peers, like successful among your peers, advocates for your work. Really, like I think it's cool. Like, yeah, we can knock like the film student kind of douches, but also like it's cool to win those people over. It's cool to have that acclaim from like film buffs and things like that. And that's what I want to be. And David Lynch seems to embody that sort of like segment of art really well. Like I can't think of anyone else who actually does it as well as him, who you can direct one of the biggest things in TV at the time, and lots of like well-known movies, and even that name, like I'm sure people who probably couldn't list a single David Lynch movie know the name David Lynch. But he's not, one of these mega stars, and I don't think I would want to be that. I think I'd want to be like a David Lynch.
No, I definitely agree with you on that, and it's interesting because he kind of brought surrealism to the mainstream in a way that and when I say mainstream, like obviously he only had a couple of what would be considered hit movies. I think The Elephant Man was a box office hit, and honestly that's probably and then Twin Peaks was a hit in terms of ratings. But in terms of like all those other movies, like I don't think he has any movie that was like, it cost $10 million to make and it made $80 million. Like I think other than the Elephant Man,
Mm.
almost. I'm sure some of his movies were at least profitable. But it was like this movie cost $3 million to make, and it made $18 million. So like,
Yeah.
but even so, I think he kind of served as the gateway drug for a lot of people, where it's like you had mainstream movies and you had weird artsy fartsy movies. And I think David Lynch was sort of like, hey, okay, so on the surface, it's a TV show about a detective exploring a weird, investigating weird crime in a small town. And okay, cool. That sounds like a great show. But also there's going to be some weird supernatural elements. There's going to be some weird sci-fi elements. There's going to be some quirky humor, but it's also going to get kind of twisted at times, where it's like he's bringing some bizarre elements to ABC at 7 p.m. or whatever. Like that was pretty cool. Like he exposed a lot of people to go, hey, this is weird, but it's kind of cool though. Eraserhead, again, not a huge box office hit, but it became like this cult classic of like, I don't know what the fuck it's about, but it's a cool experience. I want to see some more stuff like that. So I think, he kind of helped broaden a lot of people's minds with his work too. He kind of brought it to, and also getting nominated for Oscars for directing really, pretty inaccessible movies, like Mulholland Drive, which again, not a big hit, but it's like, he's getting recognized by the industry for his talent, for bringing some weirdness into a pretty compelling story.
I would say the person who is obviously like more well known, but like again, I think the person who epitomizes what I would want in terms of success in movies, at least, would be Tarantino. He's massively successable, but he does what he loves, right? And he's talked about, I think he wanted to direct like I almost said Star Trek movie. Like, so it's not that, but he doesn't like, he does what he loves, and he's huge with like movie people, film nerds. But everyone still knows him. So maybe he's like a little too successful for what I would want to be. I don't know if I'd always want to be like recognized. He's also very recognizable. Just the way he looks. But like, Tarantino would probably be up there with ideal success for me. Right.
Where you have like the freedom to do what you want, and also be recognized for it.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, and, especially his later movies, like they had pretty big budgets. Like it wasn't like
Lynch or Tarantino. Yeah.
Doing Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like that, that had a bunch of big stars, and it's a period piece, so that was not a small budget movie, but to have that much clout, to just be like, I'm going to do a movie that takes place in Hollywood in the late 60s, and I'm have a bunch of A-listers, and it's going to be pure me. It's going to be violent and weird and crazy, and it's going to be pure me, and it still was a hit, and he got Oscar nominations for it too. So
that's the dream.
But David Lynch,
rest in peace.
What a guy. And, I will say I did like the fact, because when I first moved to LA, I'll end with this. I loved that he was like our unofficial weatherman, because he did that every day, did the weather reports. Up until 2022. When I first moved to LA, I would watch those every single day.
I know. I remember you telling me.
And it was so much fun just being like, David Lynch is my weatherman. That's so cool. And
but in LA, the weather's just like always the same too.
Pretty much. But it's funny. And then because, he would do, he would start off like, good morning, and today it's bright blue skies and golden sunshine all along the way. Everybody have a great day. And so he'd always do that. Everyone have a great day. He would always sign off like that. But then before he signed off, he'd be like, today I'm thinking about the song Pretty Woman by Roy Orbison. And he'll just kind of go on a little bit of a tangent. I like that song because I first heard it when I was 9 years old, and it was at the county fair, and they had these great funnel cakes. Anyway, have a great day. So and whenever it was Friday, he would always, because he just did it with like his phone or his little camera, and be like, and if you can believe it, and he would shake the camera. He's like, if you can believe it, it's Friday once again. Everybody have a great weekend. So he would it was like, for a dude who made some pretty twisted movies, he was pretty adorably
very wholesome. Yeah, very wholesome. I do love the I'll paraphrase, like, I'm wearing my sunglasses today because I'm looking at the future, and the future is looking bright. Something like that. I like that. I sent it to Morgan.
And then one more funny little story about David Lynch. So this time of year, well, actually not this time of year, actually more in fall, in Hollywood specifically, you'll see, because it's award season, so you see all these massive billboards and posters saying, "For your consideration, this movie or this TV show."
Yeah.
It's pretty cool, but it's also kind of just like the shallowness of Hollywood, But anyway, David Lynch couldn't afford a whole like marketing campaign for Inland Empire because he was campaigning for Laura Dern to be nominated for an Oscar. Unfortunately, she was not nominated. But so what he did instead was he got a cow, like a live cow, and then he had a big, like not even a billboard, just like a big sign. I think he even like had it printed himself or something, but it was just said like, "For your consideration, Laura Dern for Best Actress for Inland Empire." And he sat out on like the corner in some famous corner in Hollywood for a day, and people just went up to him and were taking pictures with him, and with the cow to promote Laura Dern. I don't remember there being any cows in Inland Empire. It was just a way to like drum up attention. But I think that's one of my favorite stories about David Lynch, the cow and Inland Empire. So
we'll continue to discuss his work.
Yes,
on the pod. I'll watch them, over time. I'll get to all of them eventually.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, man. So David Lynch, rest in peace, and I hope you stay reckless.
Stay reckless up there.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.